the show is titled From Setbacks to Success.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have any personal or professional setbacks that you would like to share
Well, of course, I've been locked up, and I had a professional, I had a career, not just a job. I had a career before I got locked up. I had a house and multiple cars, and so definitely had a setback when I got locked up and lost everything, and then, once I got out and struggled with homelessness and unemployment, and then when I finally got a little piece of something, the house ended up catching a fire. And I lost everything again. So, it's I didn't really understand what it was, but it was a test.
We share that in common as well. I lost everything, not only from incarceration, but from the Great Recession of 2007. Mm-hmm. I had houses and that I owned and businesses. I owned 3 franchises, Planet Smoothie franchises in Atlanta. What's up, YouTube and Podcast Nation? Welcome to the From Setbacks to Success YouTube channel and podcast. I'm your host, Quincy Benton. And guess what? I'm a felon. Not only have I served time in federal prison, but I've been divorced. I've experienced a house fire. I've declared bankruptcy. And actually right now, I currently have a daughter who's incarcerated as well. So I've experienced some major setbacks in my life. Some of you too watching right now have experienced or maybe are experiencing a setback or setbacks in your lives as well. However, I want you to know that there is hope and there's a way to get through the content that you'll find on this channel, the interviews like the interview that you will watch today with an awesome guest that we have. You'll find tips, success strategies that'll help you get back in the game and succeed. If this sounds like content that you would be interested in, please smash that like button and subscribe button. We would love to have you as a part of our community. So with that said, again, I am so excited today because we have a pioneering spirit. She is an awesome person that I've had the opportunity to meet this year. Related to prison reform and just a lot of things that are going on currently in the state of Georgia, but these things really apply nationwide. But right now I have Waleisah Wilson. She is with the All of Us or None Atlanta chapter. What's up, Waleisah? Thank you for coming in and joining us on the show today.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
All right, absolutely. And so just give you a little bit of background. I was introduced to her through another guest, indirectly through another guest on our show, Karima Hanifa. And Karima, for those of you who watch this particular channel, she was facing 2 life sentences and was released early after doing 26 years. And she is just out in the community right now, just killing it. She is representing the women who have that are currently locked up, and she is also representing the people who have been released and still facing, many of the challenges that are faced by people returning citizens. And so Waleisah is on this chain, this phenomenal chain of people who are out here doing the hard work, really working to bring light to these issues, these injustices that are still going on within the system, and for people who are living, outside of being incarcerated, really trying to reform these things, make these situations better, and bring these issues to light. So thank you so much for again being with us. And I just kind of want to start right there. Tell us a little bit about, if you can, your mission with All of Us or None, the Atlanta chapter, to begin with.
Thank you for having me. All of Us or None is a national organization that's based out of California. It is for individuals, is primarily comprised of individuals who are formerly incarcerated. And we advocate, do grassroots organizing. It is the organizing leg of legal services for prisoners. And it is comprised mostly of people who are formerly incarcerated, currently incarcerated, our families, loved ones, and allies. And if it's an issue that impacts folks that are inside and out, it's an issue that we want to organize on to get the changes that we need. And part of that is just like if you, with any other shared experience, if you're an addict, you're the only one, you're the best to try to get those laws changed and get the system changed in that way. It's the same thing with people who are directly impacted and justice involved. We need to be at the table. We know what's wrong with the system, and we are better to say what needs to be fixed and impact those that we have. So a lot of the issues impact us, whether it's prison conditions, the high cost to make phone calls. These are the things that we advocate for. And if it wasn't for formerly incarcerated people, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to call the wrong state, but if I'm not mistaken, it's either Virginia or Connecticut, they're no longer charging for prison calls. And that advocacy was because of formerly incarcerated people and families who know how hard it is to make those kind of calls. And that's what we do. And up until May, All of Us or None did not have a Georgia chapter. And so I was contacted and kind of, went back and forth whether who's gonna start a Georgia chapter. And it's like, hey, if not you, who? So I decided to start a Georgia chapter and just started, networking to get folks to attend because there's several issues, a lot of issues in Georgia that needs to be tackled. And there are two main issues that we really want to work on. Well, several issues, they're at least the top 5, but we need people in the community to organize on those issues. And so that is what we do at All of Us or None. We want to cause some good trouble.
Absolutely. And I'm down with you. I want to cause some trouble as well because I've because of the relationship now that I have with you and others, and we'll give another big shout out to the Southern Center for Human Rights, who you also work with. Because of the relationship, I have now been enlightened in terms of what are the real issues specifically going on in Georgia, directly specifically with the Georgia Department of Corrections and the men's and women's conditions and prison facilities there. And I want to dive right into that as well because I'm hearing there's a lot of stuff going on in Georgia prisons right now. Can we enlighten our listeners and viewers right now in terms of what are these issues?
Well, I do work at the Southern Center for Human Rights. I'm not an attorney. I do work as a client services advocate. So I assist attorneys who are awesome and dynamic. They rock at what they do. And I'm fortunate and really honored to be able to work for an organization who's just outright badasses and don't have a problem with calling the DOJ in to launch this investigation. And a lot of the stories I receive with the capacity that I'm working in, I do run a nonprofit, so I get stories from there between All of Us or None, and also calls that I get through Southern Center and just my advocacy in the community. I mean, there are just terrible stories. We're not even going to talk about the food that really is not fit for anybody. And people feel that because people are in prison, they should be fed anything. And that's not true. You still have human and civil rights and liberties when you're incarcerated. We are still citizens when we are incarcerated. So to feel that we should be eating meals that are a third of what a kindergartner should be eating, that are not have any type of nutritional value, that have mold or bugs in it, that is not how we should be eating our food. Individuals who are mentally disabled. Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, executed a mentally disabled man a couple of months ago, just from solitary confinement, placing people who are in solitary confinement who have no business being in solitary confinement. Usually solitary confinement is reserved for the most violent people who are a threat to others, but it's not that way. It's people who are disabled being placed in solitary confinement. It is people who are mentally ill. Trans women and men, LGBTQ people being placed in solitary confinement. Usually if you snitch or you're not breaking any laws inside, you'll be placed in solitary confinement. It could be 105 degrees outside. There's not any air. We all know that women have different needs than men. However, there are women who may get their monthly cycle, who are refused sanitary, items that we need monthly. Just common sense stuff that that if a woman has her weekly cycle, she needs more than 2 or 3 tampons to last her an entire week. There are women who give birth who will complain that they're going in labor and are refused, or saying, nothing's wrong with you. Medical is ignored. Women having miscarriages. There's also this thing that a lot of folks don't know that go on behind bars, where women will have children and being told they don't have children. So people don't think a lot of stuff goes inside of the prison system, from trafficking children to rape. And one of the big things why the DOJ has been called in, from my understanding, is the number of abuse that's been going on. There have been multiple murders, dozens and dozens of murders. I think there's been over 25 suicides just in this past year, men and women. There has been a lot of reports of not only just physical abuse, but rape. That's been from one currently incarcerated person to another, as well as guards raping and assaulting people. If it's not that, it's contraband coming in. And people say, oh, it's the folks that's in there bringing in contraband. It's only so much you can bring in, you can sneak in. So a lot of that contraband and those things are being brought in by the guards to supplement their own income. There are reports, and none of these that I get, but these are just reports that I get either from all of us or none, or through my nonprofit, or just people messaging me on Facebook, of people being told that locks will be popped, guards working with gang members, that the gangs are actually renting the prisons, and guards are literally on their payrolls, that if you to do favors for them, they will open and that several deaths has actually occurred from that, of guards opening people's cells to allow them to be assaulted. Right. But yet charges aren't pressed, for that. In essence, if I was to allow you to go into somebody's house and kill them, I would be charged as an accessory. Okay. So it is out of control. Folks are not having access to their loved ones. People have gone months trying to make calls to their loved ones, being told they're in medical, or being told that they're sick, being told that they're in solitary or they're in segregation, can't receive phone calls. I received a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a woman who was in Alabama, and for 3 months couldn't get a hold of her child, and the man had been dead for 2 months. But she had been calling for 3 months and was told he was sick, he was in medical, there was nothing wrong. And several folks said they tried to call on his behalf and they were intervened as well. So these are things that go on in prison that are unconstitutional, they're inhumane, and they're just straight out disrespectful. And that is not what is supposed to be going on. When it's hot outside, you should have air. When it's cold outside, you should have heat. Yes. You should not have overcrowding, and to think that a lot of folks got out last year who were in federal prison, and to think that a lot of those folks are being recalled in a manner to go back, to send them back to this same space it's really hard. And a lot of folks there, and you can't effectively socially distance in a prison that has 2,500 to 3,000 people. And so, the last I knew of, you're not allowed to smoke in Georgia prisons. They cut out a lot of recreational times. And so a lot of time that stuff causes tension, and it's naturally going to cause a lot of violence. But it's to the point where it's out of control. Even when folks who are witnessing murders are not even placed in solitary confinement or segregation for their own protection, or later killed. So it's just a lack of oversight. We've heard reports. I think it was someone at one of our past All of Us or None chapter meetings that said that she had heard a report at her son's prison that there was probably 4 or 5 guards on duty in a prison that had well over 2,000 people incarcerated. that is not enough people. So a lot of times it's like, I'm just gonna look the other way. It's not worth it. I'm not making enough money, or whatever the deal is. But it is out of control. If it's not a riot, it's violence, it's rape, it's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I'm glad the DOJ is investigating.
Yes, and thank you for I mean, you covered all of the issues that have researched, and that the articles, as you said, the personal stories from people inside, from different people who've been in recently, are saying the same things: the inhumane conditions, the lack of female hygiene products, specifically in the women's prisons, the increased number of homicides, suicides, inadequate food portions. I mean, on and on and on, just different reports of these conditions that just really doesn't speak to a system that is equipped to handle the issue, and in some cases, and we can talk about that a little later, may not even need to be held to need to be responsible for, because I feel like, on a certain level, if you're not able to adequately take care of these things, then let people go. Let the low offenders, get these folks out of here. If you can't do the job correctly, then let them go, because a number of the people have understood. They've learned from whatever mistake that they made. They're remorseful. They demonstrate that in all kinds of different ways, and their time has been served in a certain sense. And so why keep the prisons full of people like this who once you press that button and hit go, I mean, for them, they're going to get out and they're going to start showing you why it was a good decision for them to be let out. Yeah. But with that, I want to, during this episode, we'll probably right now show a clip from a small clip from the announcement of the United States Department of Justice. I also want to show another clip of a recent instance this summer, where a group of legislators, state representatives from Georgia appeared at a facility, I think it was Lee Arrendale State Prison up in North Georgia, and were denied entry to that prison because they wanted to firsthand see, the conditions that were being reported there. So we'll show that here now, and then we'll come right back.
All
right. And we're just gonna we'll slice this up here. Okay. And we'll just go. So okay. So as you can see, there's clearly some things going on there in the Georgia Department of Corrections, and I'm so happy to Representative Kim Schofield, as well as Representative Josh McLaurin, who, as well, and the other representatives and people with Southern Center for Human Rights, all of us are none, who are leading this battle to get these issues addressed and hopefully corrected. So moving forward, talk to me a little bit about this. You have another mission with All of Us Are None, in terms of, and this was interesting to me because I don't know that it's taking place in the state of Oklahoma, where I live now, but it's the Abolish Slavery in Georgia movement. What is going on? You saying slavery still exists in Georgia?
Slavery exists not just in Georgia, but in most of the states. Unfortunately, what we were taught in school, and is what most people think, is that slavery has been abolished with the 13th Amendment. And when was Abraham Lincoln stood up and say the slaves will be free. But unfortunately, slavery does still exist. Even in the 13th Amendment itself says that slavery is illegal. And then there is this small exception, like a clause that says, except to serve as a punishment for a crime. So when you say something is no longer going to be, that means it should no longer be. There shouldn't be in a condition. That's the sort of same thing as saying, I love you, but,
right.
You know, I'm not going to whoop you again, but.
Right.
And that's what this is. Slavery is no longer legal, but unless you commit a crime. And so in Georgia, like a lot of southern states and a lot of northern states, mass incarceration fuels what a lot of folks in white supremacy days and still currently today do not want to let go, which is free labor, which is the growing boom of mass incarceration. Mass incarceration itself is a business, and people are incentivized to fill those beds. And so when back in the day when slaves were set free, it literally crumbled the economy because so much work was being performed by slaves. So people who wanted to hold on to this unethical and inhumane and to me unchristlike system found ways to keep their slaves. So they started these black codes, which black people, any little thing black people did to cause them, whether jaywalking, if they wanted to sell corn or meal, small things that would not normally get other folks arrested would get black people arrested, in turn would get them incarcerated, which in turn they would have to provide free labor. So it became, wait a minute, now we can get this free labor. Yes. So then, you know, with this whole Jim Crow and all this stuff started coming up, people have been exploiting what's in the 13th Amendment. So we technically can have slaves, but they got to be locked up first. Okay. So that is how that exception is being exploited, and that is how we're now seeing these massive booms of mass incarceration. And if you'll notice, 70, 60, upwards to 60% of folks are black. Yes. So whether you are a slave from back in the day and a field hand, or a government field hand today that's doing landscaping or working in the court or out here picking up trash on these trash trucks, you're a government-owned slave in so many ways. Gotcha. Because you're not getting paid. And a lot of people have it confused that that's not slavery. They're not being whipped. That's not slavery. They're volunteering. They want to get out of those cells. Mm-hmm. I want to go out and get a job too, but that don't mean I shouldn't get paid.
Paid for it, right?
You know, so they should get paid. When you're incarcerated, you can't unionize. So in the event that you're in one of these trash trucks and your arm goes in that compactor and you lose your arm, you don't get any benefits. Right. If you died out here fighting these forest fires out here in California, your family won't get anything because you died. Right. So it's the matter of, we're not going to hire you when you get out to be a firefighter, to be a garbage man, to be a landscaper, because why should we pay you when we can get you to do it for free? Right. This is why you're constantly seeing people who are revocated for some of the smallest things. Oh, you couldn't pay this. Oh, you registered to vote. Little things. A lot of folks don't even know that on the voter registration form, you can get another felony for registering to vote if you're on probation and parole. Wow. There's a woman right now who didn't even know she was on probation and she thought her probation was over with. Mm-hmm. She registered to vote, and you're trying to get this lady 20-something years. Oh no. You know, these are the kind of things that's fueling the system. And so Representative Nikema Williams from Georgia and another representative, and I'm sorry if I can't call his name, are actually pursuing having the exception removed or amended from the United States Constitution, which would be a federal thing. Right. However, several states are taking it among themselves to want to do it on their statewide level. And several All of Us or None chapters are doing this groundwork in their states. Yes. And right now, only 2 states have accomplished with getting their state constitutions amended to no longer say that slavery is illegal except for punishment as a crime. They have gotten this work done where the new law says slavery nor involuntary servitude is legal in this state. And that is the goal of the All of Us or None Atlanta chapter, to make it where Georgia amends its state constitution to say that slavery nor involuntary servitude is legal in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, you know, and that I mean, you are really tapping into the DNA of how this system is built, and how it currently exists now. I mean, you're really speaking to how, again, how it's assembled through legislation and how it has to be dismantled through legislation as well, piece by piece. And so it's not something that you can just knock out in one big haul or one big chunk, but just we gradually have to be active and proactive and moving forward to again dismantle these things, in these legislative ways, piece by piece. And so I think you really spoke to that with that. The things that I also really appreciate about how you have explained the message to me was two things. It was one, a story, a picture that you showed of what does slavery or indentured servitude looks like, how it looked like in Georgia, or maybe it was Louisiana. I think the picture that you had, what it looked like 60 years ago, 100 years ago, and then what it looks like now. And it was the same picture. It was, African Americans, in fields,
picking cotton
with white men on horses, overseeing the process. We think that things have changed, they have gotten better, and in a lot of ways they are exactly the same. The other thing that I liked was the story that the gentleman told us on last evening's call, where he actually spoke of serving time in Texas State Prison, and how the men there are still picking cotton to this day. From 6 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. at night, Monday through Friday, they are picking cotton. Incarcerated men in state prisons in the state of Texas. And I just find that like mind-blowing that this is, we think we've progressed in so many ways, and in certain cases we have on certain levels, but in so many ways things are just absolutely the same, and we really just need to be focused and vigilant about making these changes happen. So I will again appreciate you for bringing that. So with the show, this is called the From Setbacks to Success show. And I know we have the obvious one in common in terms of being incarcerated, but I want to ask you the question, other than incarceration, or you can even speak to incarceration, what are some of the setbacks that you've encountered in life? And for our viewers and listeners, what would you recommend as far as strategies for them to make it out of those, move beyond those?
Well, as I look back over my life, I didn't really see a lot of things as setbacks. Even though I might have didn't have the best childhood, I was happy to a certain point. My mom, up until a certain point in time, my mom, she was a caretaker nurse. And eventually she got addicted to drugs, and me and my sisters, we had to go into foster care. There was a lot of, never any physical abuse, but there was a lot of sexual abuse on my end because I was the oldest. And so, but it was a setback. What some people see as a setback, it really was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to connect with women who really loved me. And girls, because I ended up staying in a group home with girls of all races and creeds and religions, who I now call sister to this day.
Gotcha.
Who I still have a connection with and relationship with. Their kids are like my god kids or my nieces and nephews, and then those kids have had kids. So I ended up, going to high school and college, and everything was kind of going good, even though I had a few relationships that I probably were not as healthy for me and very toxic. And at the time, up until I got arrested, I ended up getting arrested and charged for arson. And I was in a very violent and abusive relationship. I was very green. I wasn't doing the work I was doing, so I didn't recognize, even though my mom had been on drugs, I didn't recognize he had addictions. I didn't really know the rules and the laws of things the way I know it now.
Gotcha.
But several times, it was very abusive with him, as well as the boyfriend that I had before then. emotionally abusive, you know, guns being pulled on me and that kind of stuff. And so of course I lost everything, I had an attorney, I had a paid attorney. But at that time, for some reason, my attorney must not have been up on the up and up, because he ended up being on jail during the time it came time for me going to court. Okay. So, you know, it was one of those things. And people say, why did you plead? I wasn't intending to plead. I was going to go to court, because when you're innocent and you say you're going to court. But I was always one of those folks that I didn't have any patience. You know, you did the time, you ought to do the crime. You did the crime, you should do the time. You know, I don't have no empathy for folks that go to prison. You do it. Why would you plead, you know, guilty to something you haven't done?
Right.
And until I was sitting in that place and I was facing 25 years in prison and listening to people, knowing that I was in a county that was 1% Black, who I thought I ended up having to get a public defender who was the best friends with the prosecutor, who happened to be related to the judge. Right. I was not in a great spot.
Not at all.
And I was like, you know, I'm going to court, you know, and they was like, I'm telling you, you got your public defender, your judge, your lawyer not showing up. And this listening to the people in the jail. And I'm thinking, I'm not listening to you. Apparently you didn't do right. You got caught. Those folks in there, they have the knowledge of what's going on. And had it not been for them, and they were like, look, you know, how much time they're going to give you? 6 months. Oh, you can do 6 months. Go on, do your 6 months, go home. I had already been there 5 months waiting on court. So I'm thinking, well, you know, I can sleep for another month.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Right.
Came that 5th month came up on me, and I was a knocking, I was a calling, hey, I'm ready to go home. And they were like, you in the no-serve county. And I was like, what that mean? They was like, your time is not counted. Right. So of course I had to go to prison. And I went to prison, and, you know, I lost everything. I had a great paying job where I was respected, doing great work, had a house, multiple cars, you know, things were really looking up. I'm no longer this foster kid. I'm doing good for myself. Yes. And had my kids and, you know, doing what I needed to do. And here I am stuck in solitary confinement simply because I'm disabled. And I'm in this place with people who I don't want to be around. I don't want nobody telling me I got to shower. You got to be strip searched. And at this time, I was 650 pounds.
Oh, wow.
You know, so I had a lot of issues with myself as an overweight woman.
Gotcha.
Having to be strip searched every time you have visitation. And not just strip searched by women, strip searched by men.
Yes.
To be in the same place.
Yes.
And so to be placed in this place, and at that time I was working on getting my doctorate. So I was in this funk, you know, I had got suicidal. I'm like, this just ain't gonna work for me. I'm finna just gonna take myself out. But at some point, it was the women in there that ministered to me, who encouraged me to say, Waleisah, you know, you just got a felony. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. And to be in there with women who were 60 and 70 years old, or to be in there with women who were in there because they stole diapers for their babies, things that people shouldn't be in prison for. Right. I kind of started seeing it as research for my thesis. Yes. You know. And I had to look at it in a positive way. And so I started noticing a lot of things, a lot of stuff that was coming in that shouldn't have been coming in, wasn't coming in by the people in jumpsuits. It was coming in by the other folks that get to leave every day. Right. Just the system itself. And that was my first time actually being an advocate, because a lot of things would go on in there. And I would see it when they would have me out during times to get something to eat or little things to shower, and I would report it. I would say certain things. And it wasn't until I got ready to go that I realized how much trouble I had caused in there. Right. Because women did not want me to leave, but the guards were happy to see me go. Right. You know, so they were glad to hear me go, because I was saying, you know, this person is disabled, they need these kind of accommodations. This person says that they're Muslim and that's not supposed to be eating this, and y'all are putting it on the menu. Y'all do know y'all violating the law. Right. You know, they were not trying to. Yeah, yes, they were glad to see me go. So I knew then that this is what I wanted to do when I got out. I wanted to help the women who were not able to leave when I got out, and I had to start over. And because of my felony, they didn't care I had all these professional experience. All they knew is I had a felony. Yes. So I had to live with family for a while, and I was homeless for a minute. And then eventually, when I did get a little spot, it was, wasn't the best place. They try to exploit you because they know you're desperate to find somewhere. So the rent is super high, or they don't want to fix anything.
Right.
And eventually kind of struggle with that, still not being able to get employment. And while I was unemployed, I started my nonprofit organization, New Life Second Chance Outreach. And with that, even as me being unemployed, using my own money that I had from savings, that I still had, my income tax check that I had, gotten, I helped other folks to find jobs.
Right.
And to this day, I've helped over 300 folks. My organization has helped over 300 folks with felony convictions find jobs, or connect them to, education.
Awesome.
And helping them and advocating for them. And it was another setback that here I am doing all of this. And at some point was either outside or in the shelter, I can't remember, doing this. God, when am I going to get a break? When am I going to get a break? So I finally got a little job that I was able to teach other folks how to find a job. Finally got me a house in a nice, decent little neighborhood. And here comes a house fire. And everything, went down again. And of course, you're moving from hotel to hotel to hotel. Well, you shouldn't be all that bad. You had insurance. That same thing we had. Didn't you have insurance?
Right.
But insurance doesn't take of the fact that, your pictures that you had. And I don't really have any pictures of myself in my childhood to this day. Because of foster care, being, not really in a stable place as I got older. Then here come a house fire, and once things got to that point, it's like, God, this ain't no way to live. I'm out here, I'm doing this good stuff, and I can't get a job, because of a felony, or I can't get housing. Everybody deserves housing.
Right.
Regardless of what we've done, we deserve housing.
Right.
And a lot of folks don't understand. A lot of people in prison are not guilty.
Right.
Over 94% of people who take pleas, it's not because they're guilty, it's because they want to go home. Or the time is shorter. They don't want to risk spending life in prison. So they do what they feel or they think is the best thing to do to get them home. And they'll figure out other stuff out later.
Right.
And eventually, that is the only reason I took the plea, because somebody that was in jail said, look, you don't want to, get caught up and get these folks up here sentencing you to 25 years and you in there for 25, because if you get out, innocent or not, Georgia ain't gonna give you no money. Georgia's not gonna say an apology. They're not gonna tell you we sorry and anything. Your best bet is to serve your time. When you get out, you can rectify that. God's gonna fix it in his own. And that's what I did. I took their advice. I was in a year, which is way shorter than 25. But I knew I would have took myself out of here if I had to be in there longer than what I was. So it all worked itself out. And then I got out in 2011. And in 2017, my prosecutor, the lady who prosecuted me, had been watching my Facebook page. And I don't know if it was guilt. I don't know what it was, but she apologized for sending me to prison, confessed to some things that has no longer caused her to be the prosecutor, and said that she wanted to fix it. And she went before the judge and asked him to exonerate me and to fix it. So not only was I going to be serving 25 years in prison, once I got out, I would have been on 25 years in paper. And I was on 25 when I got out. I was on 25 years on paper and could not vote. So by me being exonerated, I got my sorry from her. I didn't need an apology from the state. I didn't need to be recouped anything, because I knew God was going to give me what I needed.
What you needed
later.
Right.
And she had me resentenced, exonerated, my record cleared. I was able to vote, and from that point on, I've been unstoppable ever since. And I took advantage of my second chance. So that was my second chance. So I was in a very, very low, dark place, and it wasn't until 2019, late 2019, that people was, I had friends in Atlanta. I had been wanting to move to Atlanta, and a couple of my friends at Southern Center said, we're hiring, why don't you apply? And I'm like, I've been through this before. I'm tired of people, me applying in places. I'm tired of rejection.
Yes. More now. I don't even want to do it anymore, because I already know.
And the things that were keeping me unemployed were my record. And even after I got exonerated, I had already been out there as a person with a record now. So regardless, you got a clean record, now we know you've been to prison. We still don't want you. You tainted. The things that were keeping me from getting a record was the thing that got me this job, because it was my record and my experience.
Amen.
It's what they wanted at Service Center.
Yes.
And so, yes, I ended up getting a job. I moved from Columbus, Georgia, and relocated to Atlanta, and it's been up and up ever since. And I work with a bunch of amazing people who love the advocacy that I do. They're a bunch of, bad behinds and bold people who want to do what's right for folks. And that's a great place to be.
You know what? That is such an awesome testimony, And I hope that the people who are watching and listening to this really, kind of grab what she was saying, in that, because there are so many challenges that we will face, regardless if we've been incarcerated or not, that can happen in life. You talk about, being falsely accused in a sense, and something that has, been lingering for, umpteen years, that's had its effect. Is another one that, that pushes you back even further. And, these are just a lot of the things, these are devastating things that will force a lot of people to want to just give up. But just keep on holding on, keep on holding on. It may seem like everything is, there's just no hope for you. God don't have no plan for you. There's no reason for you to be here, but change is coming. And the things that you've been in a lot of cases that have been, kind of a burden to you, been on you, they will be released, and when you have that moment, you have that experience, and, this essentially, you feel like it's a miracle, and that burden has finally been lifted. It's just such a wonderful feeling, and it may take a lot longer than you would ever expect for it to take. And that's what your release, you've been out 10 years now. So some people want, they want the end, like I said, the instant stuff. They want it to happen right now. They supposed to be, they think they get out of prison and want to be on, a year after. And some of these things will take time. So give yourself grace, give yourself, time, and be patient. Continue to be patient and humble, and your time will come. So
we have to understand we're not on our time. We're
not on
somebody else's time.
We're on somebody else's time. Absolutely.
And sometimes what we want, we really are not ready for that. You're gonna give it to us when we're ready for it. And I had to learn that when I was talking about killing myself. And I'm sick of this. I want to give up. I want to keep running a nonprofit with my own money. I don't want to keep doing this. I want it now. Like them folks say on that commercial. I want it now. And God knew exactly what he was doing, because I feel like sometimes you can't have a testimony without a test. Right. But that setback was a set up for a comeback. Right. So you got to be able to understand, be honest with you. If you had everything good your whole life, you would never know really what a struggle is. You don't really get to feel that success until you've actually been somewhere and you've had to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The success tastes so much better.
Yeah. And I know we can go on and on about this, because I know from my experiences, my losses have absolutely made me appreciate the things that I didn't truly completely appreciate when I had them, because I just thought I was supposed to have them. This was things, but having those things stripped away from you, you realize, wow, how valuable just, having, just, having your own bed to sleep in, in the room with no one else is, it's just so many different things. So I appreciate you, Waleisah, for coming on today. This was an awesome episode. Please, if you can, tell people how they can get, if they want to link up with All of Us or None, please let them know how to do that and how to reach out to you directly through the Southern Center of Human Rights or et cetera, please.
Well, All of Us or None is on Facebook, or you can just email us, all of us or none, atl@gmail.com. That's the easiest way. Or you can look us up on Facebook. Or if it's just too much, because I wear so many different hats, you can look me up on Facebook at Waleisah Wilson, WALEISAH Wilson. And under my profile, there's my link to my nonprofit, New Life, which is one word -second, the word spelled out, Chance Outreach Incorporated. But you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at I am Waleisah. And I think that's about it. And all of us are none. We're also on Twitter as well. We're not on Instagram, but if you can connect with me in one of those platforms, we would love to have you. We're always looking for folks to grow All of Us or None chapter here in Atlanta, people who want to organize and get things right. And these are the two campaigns that we're working on: improving prison conditions and conditions in the detention center, as well as demanding that Georgia amend its state constitution and remove slavery from the law. And so we are always looking for folks.
Okay.
And I did want to, if you had time, I wanted to give the folks the number that if they have loved ones in prison, that the DOJ is asking that they call that number.
Okay, please share that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That phone number is 1-833-591-0288. Again, it's 1-833-591-0288. Or you can email them if you have a really long story at community.m as in Mary, S as in Sam, DOC at usdoj.gov. So that's community.msd as in dog, O as in out, C as in cat, at usdoj.gov. And they're asking if you have any relevant information to contact the Department of Justice with that is the US DOJ Civil Rights Division on cases and matters in special litigation section.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And we would absolutely put the links to and all of the different ways to contact you in the description. They will be on screen as well. So that's going to they'll have every way to contact you. One last thing, are there anything in particular, specific types of people or skills that you're looking for with people to work with All of Us or None?
We are just looking for folks who want to make some good trouble. Plain and simple. People who are passionate, people who mostly have really been directly impacted by the criminal justice system, whether currently incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, your loved ones and allies. People who want to see a change. People who don't want to attend a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. Folks who actually want to do some action. And that is what we're going to do. So we're going to be using the next 3 to 4 months to just strategize, get our campaigns together. But hopefully once the weather gets warm again, we're going to be working on actually getting out, doing some, peaceful protests, getting out and engaging with the community. So folks that it's going to be, people we can use, folks that's in communications to do Facebook postings, to do signs. So whatever your skill is, we would just, if you want to skill up, even learning how to do the organizing, we're going to make sure we get our folks trained up and do what we need to do. Okay, well, you've heard it right here first, if you haven't heard it anyplace else. And so, I'm rocking with you. So for anybody who's again, watching and listening, you'll probably find me in these groups as well. And so looking forward to meeting you guys or meeting whoever is watching and building and dismantling this system as well. So again, thank you, Waleisah. I want to give a big shout out, first of all, to my producer here at Blacken Studios. Buck, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Big shout out to you, Buck. Thank you for all the things that you do to keep us high and tight. As my brother Kareem Muhammad likes to say, keep us high and tight here on the show.
Thank you. And
I also want to give a shout out. Always let you know that if you have a podcast or YouTube show idea, please feel free to reach out directly to Buck at Blacken Studios. We'll post a link, his email in the description. It's podcast@blackenstudios.com. That's podcast with an S at blackenstudios.com. Also, you can reach out to us directly, me directly through the website from Setbacks to Success. waleisahs.com if you like to hear more episodes, or just again, link up if you are interested in being a guest or have a speaking engagement that you would like for any of our guests or myself to be involved in. Reach out there. And then again, I'm accessible on all of the social media platforms, from Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well, at Quincy Benton at From Setbacks to Success. So again, Waleisah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everybody for listening. God bless you all, and don't let your setbacks keep you from your success. Until next time.